Your dog doesn't lick you just because it loves you. That idea sounds comforting, but it's only part of a much deeper story. Dogs communicate in ways that don't rely on words, and licking is one of the most misunderstood signals they use. Sometimes it shows connection, sometimes it reveals stress, and sometimes it's responding directly to something you're feeling without realizing it. Once you see what's really happening in those moments, you won't look at the behavior the same way again. If this kind of quiet insight resonates with you, like the video and subscribe to the channel so we can keep exploring together. Have you ever noticed how your dog licks you most when things feel quiet or heavy? That behavior isn't random, and it isn't just about affection in the way humans understand it. For dogs, licking begins early in life as a way to seek care, safety, and connection, and that emotional memory never really fades. As adults, they use the same behavior to communicate closeness and to read what's happening inside you. Stress subtly changes your scent, your posture, even your breathing, and your dog picks up on all of it. Licking can become a way to soothe themselves while also trying to steady you. When it happens more intensely or at specific moments, it often reflects a need for emotional balance rather than simple love. And once you notice that, you start to realize the meaning shifts depending on what surrounds the moment. What if the same lick doesn't always mean the same thing? Dogs live deeply in the present, and their behaviors respond to the emotional tone of each situation. A few gentle licks during a calm reunion can signal bonding, but repeated or urgent licking often shows up when tension enters the room. Your dog may be responding to stress, uncertainty, or emotional overload without fully understanding why. In those moments, licking becomes less about connection and more about regulation. It's their way of coping with something that feels slightly off, even if nothing obvious has changed. That's why context matters more than the behavior itself. When licking is met with automatic reassurance or attention, it can unintentionally take on a new role. And without realizing it, your response becomes part of the conversation your dog is learning to repeat. It often happens in the smallest, most innocent moments. A smile, a laugh, a gentle touch, or even eye contact can quietly tell your dog that licking works. Dogs are incredibly good at linking actions with outcomes, especially emotional ones. When a behavior reliably brings connection or attention, the brain takes note. Even mixed signals can strengthen the habit, because inconsistency keeps the behavior alive longer. Your dog isn't trying to manipulate you. They're simply responding to patterns that feel rewarding. Over time, licking can shift from a response to a cue you didn't mean to give. What feels like affection to you may feel like confirmation to them. And beneath that learning process is something more instinctive, something that often begins before any interaction even starts. Number 1, why dogs stretch when they see you. Picture the moment you walk into the room and your dog stretches before anything else. It looks casual, almost sleepy. But that movement carries emotional weight. The stretch closely mirrors a play bow, a signal dogs use to communicate safety and positive intent. Your presence often brings relief, especially after time apart filled with waiting or mild tension. Stretching helps release that buildup, resetting the body and mind at once. It's less about loosening muscles and more about preparing emotionally for connection. Before greeting you, your dog regulates themselves first. That small ritual says, "I'm ready now," without a sound. And when you start noticing how often dogs regulate their emotions through their bodies, other everyday behaviors begin to feel less random and more revealing. Number 2, why dogs get excited when you sneeze. Have you noticed how your dog reacts the instant you sneeze, even from across the room? To you, it's just a reflex, but to your dog, it's a sudden burst of sound, movement, and emotion all at once. Dogs are highly sensitive to abrupt changes in energy, especially when they come from someone they're bonded to. In their world, sneezing often appears during play as a signal of excitement without aggression. So when you sneeze, your dog may hear it as an invitation rather than an interruption. If you smile, laugh, or acknowledge them afterward, that moment becomes emotionally charged. It turns into a shared interaction instead of a passing sound. Over time, your reactions teach your dog which behaviors lead to connection. And that same learning process quietly shapes how they respond when you ask something of them. Number 3, why dogs appear to ignore commands. It can feel personal when your dog doesn't respond, especially when you know they can hear you. But dogs don't experience commands as obligations. They experience them as predictions. Every word you use carries a history of what usually follows. If a command often leads to the end of fun or a loss of freedom, hesitation makes emotional sense. Dogs also read tone with incredible precision, noticing tension or uncertainty long before words register. Ignoring isn't rebellion, it's assessment. They're asking themselves what responding will cost or give in that moment. When outcomes are inconsistent, the decision becomes harder, not easier. And much of that decision-making is guided by information they gather in ways humans rarely notice. Number 4, why dogs sniff one spot for a long time. Have you ever wondered what could possibly be so interesting about that one patch of ground? To your dog, that spot holds layers of information stacked in time. Scent tells stories about who passed by, how long ago, and what emotional state they were in. Corners, poles, and grass collect these details like bulletin boards. Your dog isn't wandering aimlessly. They're processing data that helps them understand their environment. Sniffing is thoughtful, deliberate, and mentally engaging. It's how dogs orient themselves in a world built more on smell than sight. When they pause there, they're deciding how safe things feel. And when uncertainty rises, that inner assessment often spills outward in louder, more visible ways. Number 5, why dogs bark. When someone approaches. The sound of barking often feels sudden, but it starts much earlier inside your dog. When someone approaches, your dog is balancing alertness, emotion, and instinct all at once. Barking can mean protection, excitement, or uncertainty, sometimes layered together. It's not just about the person outside. It's about how safe your dog feels in that moment. Alerting you is part of their role, but escalation usually reflects unresolved tension. Dogs look to structure and routine to know when their job is done. Without that clarity, the body stays activated longer than it needs to. What sounds like noise is often an attempt to regulate stress. And when stress has nowhere to go, dogs sometimes release it through their bodies in unexpected habits. Number 6, why dogs eat grass. Have you ever felt a small jolt of worry watching your dog suddenly start grazing? It looks strange, almost wrong, yet for many dogs it's a quiet attempt to adjust how they feel. Sometimes grass helps soothe mild stomach discomfort, but often there's no physical illness at all. The behavior reaches deeper, tied to instinct and the body's need for balance. Dogs evolved alongside diets that included plant matter, even if indirectly, and that pull still lingers. In calmer moments, grass can also satisfy curiosity or a craving for texture and taste. What matters is not the grass itself, but the internal state driving the choice. When emotions feel restless or unstructured, physical behaviors become outlets. And when those outlets aren't enough, the body often turns to movement for relief. 7, why dogs dig, even indoors. It usually starts quietly with paws moving before you fully notice. Digging is one of the oldest instincts dogs carry, woven into their muscles and memory. For some, it releases excess energy. For others, it creates comfort and security. Many dogs dig before resting, shaping their space in a way that feels safe. Stress, discomfort, or unfamiliar sensations can intensify the urge without warning. It isn't destruction in their mind, but self-regulation. When the environment feels unpredictable, the body looks for something it can control. Digging becomes grounding, even when it looks disruptive. And certain fears, especially sudden ones, can amplify that need almost instantly. Number 8, why dogs are afraid of the vacuum cleaner. What if the vacuum isn't just loud, but threatening in ways we can't sense? To a dog, it vibrates, shrieks at high frequencies, and moves without warning. It has no scent, no face, no predictable rhythm. That combination feels less like an object and more like a living danger. Your own tension while using it doesn't go unnoticed either. Dogs read your body language and assume your stress confirms the threat. This fear isn't irrational. It's rooted in survival. The nervous system reacts first, before logic has a chance. And that same system stays active even when the body appears to be at rest. Number 9, why dogs twitch while sleeping. Have you ever watched your dog twitch in their sleep and wondered where they've gone? In those moments, their mind is busy replaying pieces of the day. Dogs dream much like humans do, especially during deep sleep. Small movements slip through as the brain sends signals to relaxed muscles. Puppies and older dogs often show this more clearly. It's a sign of a mind still processing experience and emotion. Rest doesn't always mean stillness inside. Even in sleep, energy finds its way out. And when dogs wake from that vulnerability, the body often responds with sudden bursts of freedom. Number 10, why dogs run after using the bathroom. You've probably seen it happen in an instant, like a switch being flipped. One second your dog is still, and the next they're racing away with sudden intensity. Using the bathroom is a vulnerable moment for dogs, both physically and instinctively. Once it's over, the body releases tension that's been held in place. That release can feel powerful, almost euphoric. Running becomes a way to shake off vulnerability and reclaim control. Scratching the ground spreads scent from the paws, signaling confidence and presence. To humans it looks chaotic, but to dogs it feels grounding and freeing. It's one more reminder that many behaviors we label as odd are simply the body finding its way back to balance. When you look back at those quiet moments of licking, they no longer feel random, but like small attempts to connect, regulate, and stay close in a world your dog experiences very differently than you do. If you've ever sensed that your dog was responding to something deeper than habit or affection, that feeling came from the bond you've already been building together. Sometimes the most loving thing your dog offers isn't a behavior meant to please you, but a signal meant to steady both of you at once. Noticing those signals doesn't require effort or rules, just a willingness to be present when they appear. And licking is only one way dogs speak when they're trying to understand what's happening between you and the world around you. Another behavior that confuses and embarrasses many owners carries an equally misunderstood emotional meaning that has nothing to do with dominance or disrespect. If you stay with this thread a little longer, you may find yourself seeing your dog's actions not as awkward habits, but as honest attempts to stay connected to you.